Hello everyone. In this chapter, you're going to learn about responsive web design. That means how to make your website responsive to different display devices like mobile, tablet and PC. How to change the layout according to the different display devices. So this chapter has 5 sections. The first section, we are going to learn how to use flex property to change the layout, and in second section we are going to learn about how to use the grid property to change the layout of the pages, and in third section we will discuss about how to link files from different folders. In the fourth section we will implement the responsive web design techniques like viewport, which is the basic web design technique, and media query. So picking different styles according to different display devices. That is what we will practice in media query. And in section 5 we will learn about flexible images. That means how to customize your images according to different display devices. And in section 5 we will learn about how to test our code so that whether it implements the responsiveness in different display devices. So the testing process, and finally we will do the review in the last section. So let's start with section 1, that is flex layout. So flex layout is all about one direction, one dimension. Okay, so whether you can select a particular row or particular column and work on that. For example, if you take this, it has different rows like header, main and footer. So you can just pick a particular row and you can just customize the layout by using the flex property, or you can just select this full column layout, and then you can just change the layout properties, okay, by using flex design. So it's all about one dimension. So the flex has two components, flex container and flex items. So this inner elements, the child elements, are called flex items, and this outer element, this whole container, the purple container, is called flex container. So first let's explore flex container property. Okay, so as I have mentioned before, Flexbox is all about one dimensional. Either you can just pick one row and then customize it, or you can just pick one particular column and then customize it. So it's all about one dimensional. So it has two components, container and item. Container is the parent element which holds all the flex items, which is child element. So to include flex property, you have to use the CSS property called display. Okay, so in which element, in which selector you want to apply. For example, if you want to apply this flex in main, then in main selector you have to use this property called display, and then you have to say flex as the value. Okay, this is how you will implement, you will initiate the flex layout. So this is the first step. And let's explore the W3 School website to see how we can utilize this flex layout. So you can see, if I click this code, you can see this blue color background is the flex container and these are flex items. So if you look at this, you can see where we are applying this flex property. We are applying it in this class called flex container. So flex container. So this parent element we are specifying display flex. So that will initiate the flex property. So this is how you have to do the flex layout. Okay, so this is the first line of code that you have to use. Which element you want to apply the flex layout, there you have to say display flex. Okay, so in the flex container, by using this flex container, you can change these properties, following properties. You can change the direction, you can change the wrapping mode, you can change the flow of elements, and you can just change the direction and placement of elements by using justify content, align items, and align content. So in the upcoming slide, we are going to practice one by one, see how it works. So first let's start with flex direction. So what is flex direction? So by using the flex direction property, you can just say the direction. You can just customize the direction where you want to apply the flex property. So as I told you, flex is all about one dimension. Either you can apply it in row or in column. So if you want to apply it in row, you have to say row. By default, all the flex direction property has row. So if you want to apply it on row, you don't need to say anything. You don't need to use this property because this is the default property. But if you want to change the flow direction to column, then you have to say column. Okay. Or if you want to change the order of the elements, then you can say row reverse. Change the keep it in row, but change the order of flex items, then you can say flex row reverse. And if you want to change the order of column elements, then you can say column reverse. So let's look at it in implementation in a demo. So I'm going to like you can see now the display flex property and flex direction. Just focus on this. So now we are focusing on only direction. So flex direction, which has column 1, 2, 3. So if I want to change this direction to row, then I can simply say row, and you can see now the directions got changed to row. And if I want to apply row reverse, you can see instead of 1, 2, 3, it will just display 3, 2, 1. And similarly, you can try column reverse. Okay, so this is how the flex direction property works. So the next property that we are going to see is flex wrap property. So what is this flex wrap? So how we want to display that, whether we want to display it in single line or multiple line. So just focusing on whether it is single line or multiple lines. Okay, so customizing this is called flex wrap property. It can have 3 values. By default, it is no wrap. That means all the elements will be displayed in single line if you are not using this flex wrap property. But if you want to display it in multiple lines, then you have to use either wrap or wrap reverse. Let's see how it works. So you can see how we are specifying it here. So in the flex container, we are using this flex wrap property. Okay, so one flex wrap property, and if you say no, if you are not using it, for example, let's just delete this. So you can see it's not, it is just displaying it in single line because by default it is no wrap. But if you want to do the reverse wrapping, then you can see it will change the order. Initially it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the second line it was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you can see it has reversed the wrap. So that's how it works with the flex wrap property. So customizing the number of lines. So the next property that we are going to see is flex flow property. So what is flex flow property? It is the shorthand version of the previous 2 properties. So in the previous slide we have seen how flex direction and flex wrap works. So the flex flow is the shorthand version of this combination of this 2. So instead of specifying the flex direction separately and flex wrap separately, you can simply say flex flow property, and then you can just give the values of direction and then values of the row. Okay. So instead of specifying 2 names, you can just simply say flex flow and customize the direction and wrap of the property. So let's look at the demo. You can see here row wrap. So if I want to change the order, then you can see I have changed the order, wrap reverse. Okay, so similarly we can change the column as well. So you can see column. So that is all about the flex flow property. So the next property that we are going to focus is justify content property. So what is justify content? Horizontally, how to customize the placement of the elements, that is flex items, in the flex container in the horizontal directions. Okay, so that we can control by using justify content property. It can have the following 5 values: center, flex start, flex end, space around, space between. Okay, so you can look at this picture to understand how it works. So these are the 3 flex items that is there in this container. So when you say flex start, all the elements will be piled in the starting of the flex. Okay, and when you say flex end, so it will be piled in the end of the flex, like this. It will align all the elements at the end of the container. When you say center, it will be centered around. Okay, and then space between and space around. So space between will not mind about the left and right corner. It will just provide some equal space between the elements. But when you say space around, you will get some space in the left and right edge as well. Okay, so that is the difference between space between and space around. So if you don't mind about this margins, the left and right margin, then you can use space between. If you care about this space as well, if you want to leave some space in left and right corner, then you can use space around. So let's explore W3 School website to see how it works. So you can see it is center. So if I want to change the direction to flex end, so you can see how it works. And then if I want space between, then in left and right corner will be less space, but the equal space will be provided between the elements. Okay, but it will not mind about the margins. So that is how the justify content will work. So horizontal direction, it cares about the horizontal layout. So the next property that we are going to see is vertical layout. So how to place the element vertically in the containers, how the flex items are placed. So this is the container, these are the flex items. How we are placing the flex items in the vertical, how we are customizing it in vertical direction is called align items. So even in the align item, so you can see all the same property: flex start, flex end, center, and then baseline and stretch, which is different from the justify content. So let's see how it works. So you can see it has the little meaning. When you say flex start, all the elements will be placed at the top of the flex in terms of vertical direction. And when you say flex end, it will be placed in the bottom of the container. And flex center will be centered around. Baseline will focus on, will keep the baseline, the center of all elements, placement of all elements, because we cannot say all the flex items are of equal height, right? So whatever the height is, focusing on the center axis of this flex items. If we focus on that, then it is called, then we can use baseline property. And stretch property will just stretch the elements, flex item, height of the flex items. Okay, so based from, it will be different from the original height. It will just stretch the height of the flex item so that it will flow throughout the container vertically. So let's look at the demo for this. So you can see now it is centered around, and then if I give flex start, you can see it will be moved vertically, starting of the flex. And let me give stretch. You can see how the height of the flex items will be stretched throughout the height of the flex container. So the next property that we are going to focus is called align content. So which is different from align items. So the align content used to align the flex line, that is the baseline. Okay, so this property works only when the flex wrap property is set. Like if we don't set the wrapping, if we are not using flex wrap property, then the align content will not work, because it is mostly it will customize the multiple lines, how to align multiple wrapped lines in the Flex container. Okay, so the first criteria is whenever you use Flex wrap to wrap, whenever the no wrap is on, then you can use the align content property. So you can see the same thing, flex start, flex end, center, space between, space around, and addition to that stretch. Okay, so you know how all these properties will work. We have discussed in the previous slide. So let's look at the demo to understand how it works. Okay, so you can see as I have mentioned, only when you have the raw property that you have used in the code, then only you can apply this align content property. So with the align content, they have used space between. This is how it works. So let me change the align content to flex dot. Okay, so similarly flex center, let's say center, and let's say stretch. So you can see how it is focusing on, let's say flex end. So it is focusing on the relation, the correlation between the two lines. Okay, so if you want to customize that component, then you have to use align content property. Okay, so you should not get confused with these terms. Justify content is all about horizontal direction, and align items is all about vertical customization, and align content will work only for wrapped element, that is the relationship between the wrapped lines. If you want to customize that, then you have to go for align content property. Okay, so the upcoming 3-4 slides, we are going to see what are the properties that we can use to customize flex items property. Okay, so you can change, that means customization, how you can manipulate the item, flex item, the child element of the parent container. So the flex items can have order. We can use order property to change the order of the placement of the items in the container, like this. So you can change the order 1 2 3 2 1 3, like that you can change the order. So let's look at the demo for this. So you can see here we have simply used the inline CSS. Order is the property name that you will use to change the order. So here order 3, that is the 1 is in order 3. If you want to change the order, you can say 1 will be in 4th, and 2 will be in 3rd order, and 3 will be in the 2nd order. Okay, so if I change this, now you can see the first element will go to the 4th position and the second element will be 3rd position. So how to change the order of the placement of the elements? By using order property. Okay, so the next property, flex grow and FluxStream. Okay, so how to grow the width of a particular flex item relative to the other flex items. Okay, how to grow it, how to expand the particular flex items relative to other items. So for example, you can see here each div items or flex items. Okay, each div 1 2 3, each div items are flex items, parent child element. And you can see here you are saying that flex grow is 1 for 1 and 2, but the flex grow for the third is 8. Okay, so that means it has expanded 8 times bigger than the first one. If I set it to 4, then you can see how it is getting expanded 4 times bigger than the other 2 elements. For example, if I want to change the width of the second item, keeping the width of third item to 2, then you can see how it is 2 times bigger, 5 times bigger, and 1 time bigger. Okay, 1 time the same width. So this is about flex grow property. The same thing with the FlexStream, but instead of growing, expanding, it will get string. So how much we want to string a particular flex item relative to other items, that can be done by using FlexString property. So if you explore the code in the W3 School website, you can see here in div 3 we have applied flex string property, and we have said it is 0. That means you can just shrink the other elements according to the display devices like this, but you should not shrink the third element. That's what we have mentioned. But if we say it can be shrinked 4 times smaller than the other element, then I'm saying flex shrink 4. So it will be shrink 4 times smaller than the other element. Okay. So let me check the same thing for some other element. For example, the 9th element. Here I want to say it can shrink 2 times. The 9th element, you can see it is shrinked 2 times. It is shrinked 4 times. The 3 is shrinked 4 times and 9 is shrinked 2 times. Okay, so that is about flex shrink property. So order and then flex shrink. So let's see what is the next property. Flex basis and align cell. So flex basis property specifies the initial length of the flex item. You can say, you can set the initial length. So it can be changed based on the device width later on, but we can set the initial length by using flex basis property. For example, here you can look at that. There are 4 div items here, and we are saying that the basic of the flex items, we didn't specify any basis for 1 to 4, but here we say it is 400. You can see, then it will change, but the basic length, initial length, the ratio of the initial length will be 400. So let's set some flex basis for first div. Here we say it should be div 200. So it can be applied for only one element. So here you are saying it is 200 pixel for the first element and 400 pixel for the third element. So this is the initial flex basis property will help you to set up the initial length of the flex items. So the next property is align self property. So align self property will focus on alignment of a particular item. Okay, so this is same like the align content property, but here the align items property, you can see here align items property will focus on the column. So it is same like the align items property, but the align item will focus on all the flex items. Here by using align self, you can just customize one particular item over the other item. So the align self will override align items property. For example, you can set that align items is vertical, or sorry, the stretch for all elements, but you can just focus on one particular item. For example, here the blue div, it is align self. So if you say flex dot, then a flex end, it will be here. Like you can apply all the properties that you used for align self. Okay, but you can customize it for one particular item. So whatever you have given in the align items, that will be overridden based on the align self property. So the last thing that we are going to focus is how to use this flex property to simply change the width of the elements in the web pages. Okay, so how to customize the size of each flex items simply by specifying the flex property and just say some numerical value to set the ratio of the element relative to other element. For example, here you can say the nav, nav is one flex item and main is 7 times bigger than the nav, and aside is 2 times bigger than the other element. So how you can set up the ratio or the flex elements by using flex property. So here you can see here there are 2 items. So if I replace it, you can see it is flex left and this is flex right. So here you are saying 50% and 50%. If I want to change to 20% to the left and 80% to the right, then you can see it here. Either you can use numerical value or a number value like I have shown in this PPT. You can either give the value until 10. So in 10, how much you want to give for main, how much you want to give for nav, like that you can specify. Or as I have explained in this demo, you can use the percentage value. So in 100%, how much value that you want to give to the header area, how much you want to give to main area, how much you want to give to footer area, like that you can use the percentage value as well, okay, by using flex property. Or see, here I have given percentage value initially. Now I want to change it to number value. So you can see 1 value is given out of 10, 1 is for 1 and 9 for 2. Okay, so this is how you can simply use the flex property to change the layout, the size of the items. Okay, so this is all about the flex layout property. In the next section, so to recall, we have used how to customize the flex container, okay, and then how to focus on the flex items by changing the order, growing and shrinking, and changing one particular element. Okay, so in the next section we are going to see how to use grid layout. See you in the next video.